What's up, guys? Happy Friday, Saturday, whatever this is. It's weekly update number 20. Whenever you're listening to this, I hope you're having a great day. We have been on the road this week. We were at a lunch and learn in Denver, Colorado. Big shout out to Aspire Software and Designscapes for hosting this lunch and learn, where we got to connect and collaborate with a nice group of contractors about this idea of speed and how to use speed as a competitive advantage in your business. I'm going to talk about that and dive into some takeaways. Before I do a quick little bit of housekeeping, next week we're going into Equip, the biggest equipment landscape show on planet Earth. 30,000 landscape contractors, vendors, and just industry legends will be descending on Louisville, Kentucky, starting on Tuesday, which we are kicking off with a disruptor social event at Antonio Zeppa's greenhouse just outside of town. If you're interested in coming to that, you can check out jwhitegroup.com, sign up. It's free to attend, even though it's going to be an amazing event with great food, bourbon tasting, all of this stuff. If you're going to Equip, you cannot miss this thing. Definitely sign up, RSVP, and love to see you there. Shout out to our sponsors, Crest Outdoor Power Equipment, Leanscaper, and Aspire for making that event possible and making it free for all of our Disruptor members and for the general public who wants to come in and check it out. Next week's going to be big, guys. We are unveiling the fully autonomous Crest Voyager. Super excited for this, along with announcing the keynote Jesse Cole. So I have got a few things going on next week. I've got 3 other conferences, or should I say conferences? We've got 3 other educational series that I am doing, 2 in partnership with Landscape Management, 1 in partnership with Brian Fullerton, Marty Grunder, and Mark Bradley. Looking forward to that on Thursday. So if you're coming to Equip, check the schedule. You can find out all the good things on their website. Just search Equip Exposition, and it will come right up. Okay, I want to dive into a couple things this week. And first and foremost, I want to give some of the takeaways that I took from the Lunch and Learn that I hosted and spoke at and what have you. But look, guys, when I'm talking at these events, I am soaking up knowledge the entire time. The back and forth. I had some chance to sit down with Phil, who's the owner of Designscapes, the founder and owner. He's done an amazing job. So Designscapes is in Denver, Colorado. They grew that company over the last 33 years from nothing to where they are today, number 77 on the top 100 list. And I think they're right around 50 million in revenue, 350 employees, something around that range, and just a really awesome company. They do it all: maintenance, commercial installation, residential design build, and some snow just based on where they're at. They do get 5 to 6 decent snow events a year. And here's kind of what I took away from Phil, the owner. I was talking to Phil before we started, and I had a chance to just really go deep with him on why have they been so successful in a market like Denver that is so challenging, so competitive. And it kind of, for him, came down to one thing. He said one of their core values is do what's right always. And I really just, that was like the big takeaway of the week was it's fundamental doing what's right. It's fundamental to our success that we do what's right. It's fundamental to our success that we help others, that we assume positive intent, that we help our team succeed. And so I really think it's simple, and people are probably listening to this being like, yeah, that's obvious. But you know, when you see someone practice it so diligently, so consistently for over 3 decades, and then you see the results of this really amazing company with this huge group of employees that are so bought in to the mission that they're on, it was just really incredible. So, you know, my big takeaway from that is just the fact of sometimes it's the fundamentals in business and doing those really, really well consistently over time that help make you successful. Now, on the other side of that, kind of an interesting contrast, I think you can't lose sight of doing what's right, being consistent. But on the other side of that, we talked a lot about this idea of change and speed and changing with our environment and changing ahead of our environment. And so while some companies are very successful because they've done a really good thing and a really great consistent service for a long period of time, in 2026, we're heading into a market where disruption is going to start to lead it's going to start to lead the segments that you focus on, whether you're in lawn care or construction or roofing or another trade. disruptive ideas, disruptive techniques are going to start to create clear differentiators in the market, because these differentiators are going to show up like speed, technology, price point, fully autonomous mowers, and so much more. And so your ability to integrate disruptive technologies and disruptive techniques to your business is going to radically change your ability to compete. Now, let me explain and kind of go deeper on that. So if you are, let's just go with speed, right? If you're a company that has an amazing process for when a client calls in or requests a quote or puts in some type of lead opportunity within your system, an inbound lead, and you're able to get back to them within a minute or less, you're able to schedule that event, that meeting, that quote, that Zoom call, whatever it is, that next step in that 1 minute. And that next meeting happens within 24 hours. And then you're able to turn a proposal or a price proposal around within 48 hours. Your chances of winning that work skyrocket. And I know everybody listening to this understands it. It's just hard to put in place. It's a lot of excuses that we get when we say this to our team. We want to increase our speed to lead. But truly, that is something I go back to because it's something everyone can relate to and it's so easy. Now, outside of speed to lead, when we're talking about disruptive technologies, think about the idea of going all electric as a landscape operation. We did this January 1st of this year. And I can tell you, when you're proposing a new maintenance contract and you're fully electric and you have all these other things that you're offering that are equal and maybe above your competition, just the fact that you're all electric is such a big differentiator that it gives you a leg up to show that, hey, we're a different company. We're embracing new technology. And for that reason, we're looked at in a different light. So you want to just give yourself a small edge against your competition. And there's so many ways to do that, but the easiest and cheapest, less cost effective, the most cost effective is speed to lead. You really can't beat speed to lead. It is the number one way to differentiate between you and your competition. Now, the third takeaway is this idea of the speed flywheel. The speed flywheel is a concept that is extremely simple, and anyone can learn this. And you're probably doing a form of this at any point today. So step one is you need to decide what you're going to do. So that's the first step in this flywheel. And think of a flywheel as a gear spinning around, and the faster you move it, the faster it goes, the more momentum it creates. And at some point, it starts to roll on its own. It starts to move on its own without you applying basically any pressure. But to get it going, it does require an immense amount of force. So if you want to get this flywheel going in your business, you do have to take action. So the first step in this is you got to decide what you're going to do. Once you decide and you have a plan, the next step is execute. So number one, decide. Number two, execute, execute, execute. Go take action. Funny enough, this is a step of the flywheel that most people fail. Most people miss the action part. They miss executing their plan at their planned objectives. Okay, once we decide, once we execute, the next step is a debrief. The debrief happens directly after the execution, whether this is a new SOP, a new process, or you're just simply doing a project. You're installing a landscape, for example. Once you decide, once you execute, and then you debrief the situation, you're going to learn something about that. Your knowledge, your experience will be concrete. It'll be rooted in fact because you follow a proper debrief process. Now, if you don't have a process for debriefing, I recommend the 4F method. And you can catch that on, I think it's weekly update number 1 or 2 I did. And I shared the 4F. But if you don't know the 4F, send me a shout. I'll send you a little detail. Actually, you know what you could do? You could go to ChatGPT, go to GPTs, search new GPTs, type in landscape intelligence. I built a GPT that has a bunch of info, and I'm always training it. I've trained it on the 4F debrief, so you can utilize that. Okay, little side tangent. Coming back. Once we decide what we're going to do, we execute that thing. We execute that plan. We then debrief that plan. How'd it go? Would we win? Did we win? Did we lose? What did we learn? Once you identify what we learned, then you can go and start the flywheel all over again. And you can decide how to operate in the next step. You can decide what your action step is next. So once you decide what you're going to do, you execute that thing, you debrief that plan, you learn from that debrief, and then you decide again. And that is a complete flywheel, right? So there's 4 components: decide, execute, debrief, and learn. Those are the 4 components of the flywheel. The faster you can do this, the faster you will grow. The faster you will hit your goals. Speed is the measurement between where you are and your goals. So if you can learn faster than others, you are going to be much better off. You're going to be in a much better position than your competition. Now, when we talk about competition, when we talk about winning, I'm going to pull a quote here. I guess I'm going to paraphrase from Brian Emmy, who spoke at our management planning session about a week and a half ago. He says, we don't want to just win like a hockey team, 1-0, 2-1, 3-1. No, we want to blow out. We want to win like a football blowout on Saturday at the college stadium for the home team. We want to win 99-0. We want to win so fast that they throw up their white flag and we pack our bags and go home. When you are talking about how fast you want to win, the time it takes from where you start to when you win, that period of time is everything. And I'm not talking about your competition in terms of the guys across the street. I'm talking about your competition as who you are today. Because at the end of the day, it's not who you compete with that matters. It's the fact that you're making progress in your life. And too many people, I think, are so obsessed with beating their competition, they set this false ceiling on their own progress. They set this false ceiling on their own potential. Because if you're comparing yourself to, a shitty landscape company or another trade that you just are dominating, then you're going to feel like you're doing this great thing when in reality, maybe your competition just isn't good enough to be compared to. Maybe the people that you should be comparing yourself to is your company 6 months ago, is your company 3 months ago. That type of progress is what ultimately builds amazing companies. Now, that's really our big focus at K&D right now as we look to 2026. It's not about competing with other landscape companies for us. It's how can we disrupt the market? How can we be so different that we aren't even considered a landscape company anymore? And that may sound weird to some people, but ultimately, I want people to look at us like a tech company. I want to be so tech enabled that we can get our average revenue up to $1 million per employee. Right? We have these metrics that really will tell us how efficiently we're doing with our technology, with our change management. And at the end of the day, the goal is just to be different. And at the end of the day, the goal is to raise the bar. And that's what we're trying to do here. So, hope you guys enjoyed this weekly update. Week number 20 already in the books. Next week's going to be crazy. We're going to be at Equip Expo. We're going to see a bunch of new equipment. We're going to be meeting a bunch of people. It's going to be a great time. Definitely come back for next week's update because it's going to be filled with all kinds of new information. Stay tuned and keep raising the bar, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to Trades Talk, where the next generation of disruptors comes to raise the bar. If you got value from today's episode, share it with someone in the trades who's ready to level up. For more tools, insights, and community, follow host Justin White and join the movement at jwhitegroup.com.